Hey guys, you've tuned into another hour of Friends with Death Benefits. I'm your host, Tiff Mussman, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Justin Paulson.
Hi.
Today, we're going to be interviewing a good friend of Justin and I's, Brian, who has just experienced recent loss of his dad, Rick, and what it's like on the business side of things. So glad you guys could tune in. What's up, Justin?
Nothing.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah, you doing all right?
I think so.
You kind of look a little dazed over there. You good?
Not any more than usual.
No.
I'm good to go.
How's the promotion? Justin got a promotion at his job.
Oh, yeah. Exciting stuff.
It is exciting.
Is it?
Well, I don't know. You should be equally as excited about your employment as you are about your stand-up comedy. Okay.
I liked it better when my stand-up comedy was my employment.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I know. But listen, there's nothing wrong with having a little side hustle.
I feel like every happy birthday uncle card that I put in a pocket at a Dollar Tree is just one less joke I'm telling on stage.
But the thing is that to me, that happy birthday uncle is a joke in my pocket because I would give that card at an inappropriate time.
Yeah.
I like to give those things at funerals, at weddings, things like that.
Me and Jake have been talking a lot about how maybe this is the opportune time for me to start my very rare greeting card collection that no one should ever want to start,
That's a great idea.
But then it ends up late at night, it's 2 a.m, and I'm on eBay spending $2,000 on a sorry you're retiring shoe repairman from 1973. Yeah. And
you're spiraling.
It could snowball really fast.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I probably should just stay out of that market, I think. But
yeah,
I'm doing more day job stuff, so that's good. But it's
integrating back into the
money in
world
the pocket, whatever.
Yeah, for your lavish lifestyle.
Yeah, you got to keep me in the finest sweatpants, so it's important.
That's right. You need multiple grays. Okay.
Yeah,
gray is
several
not just
colors.
one color, man.
Yeah,
There's a lot of hues of gray. Yeah. And you have as the original gray sweatpants dude, you have it as your civic duty now to forever be showing off the latest gray.
I think I'm the guy to see when it comes to
Yeah.
Is it heather? Is it coal? Is it a light ash?
You have done your research.
Is it something really cool I don't even know about that might look like TV static or something?
That's right.
I don't know.
They call this TV static.
I got a few cargo sweats, which I'm living a lie. I don't even carry much stuff. I don't cargo at all. So
I don't cargo. Okay, right on.
What do you do?
Are those your dress or your utility?
Ooh, it depends on the evening and what I have planned.
Okay.
I never try to jump too high here.
Like what do they make those? They make a cargo sweatpants with what in mind? Like
exactly.
What are they like? For the man who needs to carry the remote from the chair to the bathroom, we've got the sweatpants for you.
So you got big stuff you need to carry on both of your thighs.
Right.
But you don't want none of that bullshit zipper or button stuff going on.
So good.
I don't know. Alyssa accidentally bought me skinny sweats once. That didn't work at all. I don't know.
Oh man, Ethan got a pair of skinny sweats, and just because he was dude is just massive, and he'd put these on it, and they just were they look like tights. It was
like he was trying out
cute.
for the ballet.
But he thought he was just the coolest too, and he had this thing where he would tuck his shirts into his sweatpants. So it was a whole thing, and I think a lot of it was because he thought it made his back look better or more normal. In fact, it actually accentuated it. But it was just because he had the longest legs, a super long torso, his hips kind of sat up a little high, and it was the door. There were many times where I was like, I can't take him with me into public. Yeah.
But I like that he was into it. There's something about being confident in the shit you shouldn't be confident
in. And
now,
I wear his clothes a lot, and I wear them now, and they look normal on me. But I'm just I'm trying to squeeze my fat ass into these, and I'm thinking to myself, how the hell did he even fit into these? It's just busting at every seam, max capacity.
And loved it, and looked in the mirror and was like, "This is I'm doing
I look
this.
real good."
That's I'm finding pride in what are clearly insults lately anymore. One of the opening comics for us in Des Moines posted on Facebook about the show and tagged me and said, "Everyone wear their finest sweatpants in honor of comedy sex symbol Justin Paulson." And I know what he's saying is I'm the opposite of that. That's the joke. But Still
But
made me
maybe
feel
you're
kind of
not.
cool. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean,
Took it as a compliment.
listen, the
Yeah, maybe I
standards
am.
of beauty are changing,
Yeah.
and like you are a poster child for the.
Who knows when you're really on? You know, when
That's
you really
right.
got
When
it
you
going.
got it, you got it.
You know, things have been going good. You know, who knows? There's a lot of magazines out there. Maybe one of them wants me on it.
Maybe.
I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see.
We don't know what
I'm open to
the magazine
suggestions.
is, but
Haven't heard back from Mayor Bill yet. You know, but we're throwing
Mayor
stuff out there.
Bill, we're pleading with you, sir.
We're gonna keep asking.
We love you, Mayor Bill.
We don't know what we want you to come on here and talk
We don't.
about, but
Yes. I do have a few hard questions for you, though. Okay, so, if you're tuning in this hour, super excited that you're here. We actually have a guest today with us in the studio, and we always take a long amount of time before we introduce them because we want them to get a feel of what it's like to sit in the corner and listen to us talk and act like they're not here.
it's because we hang out on air. Like we catch up on the hey, how you been? How are things?
So today we have my good friend, Brian, and also a friend of yours, acquaintance of Justin, Brian Truex, local electric man. He's electric. Say hi, Brian.
Good evening. Hi, guys.
I guess I don't like that you just like made light of my relationship with Brian in lieu of yours. I think
How
we
does
just discussed he's known me longer.
We do know each
So-
other quite well. He's been to my house. I fixed his electric guitar back in the day right before he went on tour.
I've been in his van.
You've been in his van?
Yeah, like a
in my
couple
electric
times.
van. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
We've hung out till 4 a.m. on several occasions.
Not in his van. That was a different thing.
No.
It was a whole...
So I'd say we're more than acquaintances.
Okay, good
Yes.
friends. I didn't really know much about your guys' relationship. Thanks for clearing that up
Learn
for me.
something every day.
Yeah, I like that. So I know Brian because Ethan's dad and Brian were in a band together. Brian's a musician, Ike's a musician, and so I've known Brian for some time. We kind of lost some touch over the years, and then reconnected again, and just as of late have gotten kind of close, and just I thoroughly enjoy you, sir.
I feel the same, absolutely, as well. We
Yeah.
kind of have these kind of weird, quirky personality that bounce off each other quite well. So I
it really
appreciate
works
that.
out.
Yeah.
It really works out. So, I wanted to have you on the show because you have just recently suffered kind of a significant loss. You want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. I lost my dad on December 7th of last year. Last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been just shade over 2 months ago.
Okay.
It's a little different than either one of your stories, and I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, so I'm clear on a lot of the details of yours as well, Justin. Even though I didn't live it along with you, kind of where I was along with it with Tiff and Isaac and all that. But my father and I guess I could just get off with the quick and honest truth and make a short Cliff's Notes version of it. We've become estranged in the last few years, because of issues maybe we'll get into later, but just to keep it short. He was of poor health, so I kind of was able to prepare for that mentally over decades. He had his first heart attack when I was 40. He passed at 67, so there was 27 years there where it was always like, this is, life is frail and I could lose dad, So I did finally get that call on December 6th, and you might want to get to the hospital, and I got there, and it was over very quickly. I was the one that made all the decisions.
Because, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about this episode. So what made you the decision maker? Let's talk about that.
Okay, so, I'm the oldest son. I have a younger sister that's a few years younger than me, and a younger brother that's 6 years younger than me. Obviously, we're all adults now, well into adulthood. I remember at points in time my father telling me, you are the executor of my estate. You are the medical power of attorney. I never saw any paperwork over this, but this is what he told me, and I think my sister and brother just assumed that. So when
Because you were the eldest.
Yes. So when all this hit and happened so fast, I'll call her his common law wife. They weren't married, but they were together for 7 or 8 years at the end of his life. She was the one that contacted me, and she wanted no part of any decision making. That was not where she could be at that moment, And I am able to snap into gear even under those kind of circumstances and make decisions. And I was the one that made all the decisions throughout, the medical decisions to let him go and to do the organ harvesting and, you know, the cremation, the whole setup I went through.
So let me rewind just a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fast forward on you a bunch.
Yeah. Brian is he's a speed demon, so I call him Turbo Brian. And I appreciate it so much. But so you get a call, and your dad has had a cardiac event, right? He's had a heart attack.
He had a pulmonary embolism a couple weeks prior.
Okay.
And then he had checked himself out of the hospital against the doctor's orders and gone home.
Okay.
He went back in that day with a double brain bleed, one in the central brain and one somewhere else that's important.
Okay.
And when I got there to see him, he was already in what we would call the death rattles, with the kind of the snoring and the really intense.
So incoherent.
Oh, gone. Yeah,
Okay.
there was no conversation. And I went in and said everything that I could possibly say, and we can get into that later as well.
Yeah.
I said, what do we do? I was there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, I haven't seen him in years. And
How many years do you think?
6, 7
wow.
years.
Okay.
Since my 16-year-old son was 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe we went to a Christmas or two in there in the middle when I was able to do that. But I left after a couple hours. You can only stand there and watch it for so long. I didn't know what was going to happen. At this time, the doctors are not telling us. They're just like, it could be, we don't know, you know.
Right.
I got home. This is 7, 8 o'clock at night. The phone rings. It's a doctor. And he says, we have to put him on a ventilator. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? And they said, well, it means the next 24 hours are crucial. And we need the ventilator to assist him in these next 24 hours to see what we're going to do. Okay, do the ventilator. The call comes like 10 minutes later. It's another doctor. And he's like, yeah, the brain bleeds and the ventilator and the combination of these deep surgeries and the condition he's in and the quality of life he's going to have is 10% or less, And I remember my dad from when I was a little kid, and he would say, if I ever get in this kind of condition, you drag me out in a field and you shoot me,
Yeah.
And I remember being so young with him telling me that. I was like, how am I going to get away with that? You know what I mean? Like, I would be in jail for that. Yeah. And then it processed to me that I think what he meant by that is I do not want to be.
Don't prolong it.
Don't do that to me,
Yeah.
And I knew the condition he was in. So my loss was different in the fact that I lost him over a decade of time and had to close those pages at the end. And my grief may not be in so much in the loss of a father, but I loved him. I love him, but it just, you can love someone for 25 years and then mental illness or a drug addiction or something takes over that forces you to have to separate from that person, and you love them from a distance. And he's my dad, man. He taught me how to throw a baseball, and he was at my wedding. It wasn't like I was abused as a child. There's no pain like that. Mm-hmm. It was the estrangement as adults and all that. But
you said something just now, and like you had said this over like a couple days fresh after your dad had passed, that you had already grieved the loss of him prior.
As a father, yes.
Yeah, and it's I found that so profound, and I mean that touched me just because I have 2 living parents, but I have grieved both of them for those same reasons, and so that really struck a chord with me, and I think it is a different type of grief. But I want to know, like, what does it feel like for the finality of it? Like you said, you're closing the pages of that book now, even though you've grieved it for a long time. There's a lot of pain that comes as a child of an addict or an alcoholic, and you have it's a whole another gamut of emotions, I think, that come in that grief. But what do you feel like that was like? Like how could you describe that?
I felt like I was immediately able to forgive him with my heart as he passed. You know, the story is, I got to go back up to the hospital and hear his last breath, and that's what I heard. I walked in the room and yelled his name, and I got one last gasp, and that was some great closure, you know. But I immediately forgiven him, you know, and I had my own regrets in why we were apart from each other. But I will tell you now, after 2 months, that I do ride a roller coaster between forgiveness and regret and still some pretty sharp pain and anger for his side of things. And then I'm writing that daily, and, you know, and we'd had a side conversation about some stuff that I'd found, and that was, you know, you start to close things up and you're like, I built my little shrine to Dad. I got his urn, I got his glasses and his cigarette lighter and his letter jacket letter all set up in the corner of my room. And then I find something that was really painful to find for me or something, you know. And so I'm doing this dance with him still a little bit, but I mean, I'm mostly over it. Any anger or resentment. It strips it down and makes you realize you were just as at fault, probably, you know.
Like you as the child?
I feel a heavy responsibility for it, because even though maybe he was sick and not a good environment for me and my kids, I still felt like not responding to his texts anymore, or you know, not sending him pictures of the kids and stuff like that hurts me bad now. So that's the regret I'm talking about. Like, the last message I ever got from him was 6 months ago, and it said, "Can I at least get some pictures of your kids?" You know, so the pain I'm dealing with, as well as losing a father that I loved until I was an adult and then fell apart from, was what I took from him at the end.
It's hard to keep that in mind, like, because I've been kind of going through some of that myself. You know, as you're living life, it's hard to like take yourself out of situations and think about that. Like, oh, maybe I should handle this differently, because how would I feel when he's gone? You know, never once did I. The last couple of years with my mom, I've said that it got to the point where I would see her name show up on my phone, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to answer it, because the drunk version of her wasn't very fun to talk to. And, you know, I have those moments of, those are conversations with her, good or bad, that I, you know, missed out on and don't get to have again. And like I've been finding lately, I've been having feelings of just like, I felt like I was the only one that wanted her to get better. Everyone else kind of enabled it. And I'm having a hard time battling between being mad at her for not getting better and being mad at myself for being mad about it, if that makes sense.
I was the only one ever to challenge him, to actually be like,
it's kind of where I was too.
I was so tactful as well, and this is what really closed it for me, because I was so tactful. I remember it was years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and I said, I love you, you're my father, you know, but like, I see what's up, you know, and not to just lay everything out on my dad, but like, I'm seeing what's going on here, and like, you need to do this. We need to fix this. And it was just that addict version, or the mental illness part of it. It just is in one ear, out the other, or it rattles around in their brain and comes back out as flames at you. You know, they're just.
Did he? I mean, when you would have those moments with him, did he acknowledge it, or was he combative?
No, he had some pains. He had like really weird back pains, and he was a pharmacist. And I'm sorry, Dad, I'm just going to, you know, just tell his story. He was a pharmacist, a brilliant, intelligent, fantastically humorous, could throw a baseball a country mile. He worked in Clear Lake at a computer company, and they closed down, and he drove every day in a little Geo Metro down to Drake University and got his pharmacy degree and became a pharmacist. And he had some back pains or some hip pains that really got to him, and no doctor could ever really figure it out. Well, you're a pharmacist. You have access to whatever you need, and you have some pains that are real serious. So I don't blame him for what happened to him, but the situation was bad enough that I had to take my family and my young family away from it, you know. And so, like, I can say, like, he taught me how to throw a ball, and like, he was there at my wedding, and like, my wife knew him very well. It's just the last decade, and so I suffered a lot with. And this is, I thought it would be closure. I thought I wouldn't care as much. I thought I'd be like, all right, yep.
I think, because there's a strange, like, even though, maybe you can elaborate on it, but part of you, I assume, probably thought, like, even though you'd been estranged for a long time, part of you probably thought, well, if he gets his shit together,
Totally.
we can fix this. You know what I mean? This is fixable. I can't make him do it. So that's kind of where I was, you know what I mean? Where it was just like, I can't fix her, but I can't keep subjecting myself to this crazy shit. And I don't think I'm working on not being mad at myself about it, but I would say the same to you. You know, I don't think we can blame ourselves for doing the right things.
Because would you do it again?
You know,
Do what I did with him.
step away.
Yes, when I stepped away, I would have stepped away again as quickly as I could have, because it was such a blatant thing that I was like, that's the line. It was an easy line. It was an easy crossed line. Sure. And I was like, that's too much. And, but maybe I wouldn't have punished him for.
And that's what hurts the most. Would you say right now?
It does, because I know he had a gnawing need to make it right.
Yeah.
And he was sort of all right with my brother and sister. Like none of the three of us were cool with him at all. But my sister was a little more nurturing, a motherly like. She would listen to it, and I just couldn't take it. I'm the oldest. I'm the hardest. I was the one out the door the first. So I just was more firm and then like, I'm not dealing with it, you know?
Mm-hmm. But do you think also he trusted you with the big obligations of power of attorney? You know, you were the one that had to acquire all of his things, make the hard calls. Do you think that he, based on just the man that you are, that is why he chose you for that? Ultimately, what separated you being hard-nosed, is also what made you the responsible party for him.
Yes. I think we were the closest because I was his first son and he was healthy the whole time that I grew up till I was an adult.
So you had a healthy dad.
I had a healthy dad. My mom left my dad when I was 19, and I don't blame her, because I know that it was 24 years of her trying, you know. But, when divorces change people, and heart attacks and strokes change people, and those kind of things happened after I was out of the house, which made it even harder for me, because I didn't get to really witness that kind of stuff change. All of a sudden, it was just like, what had happened to you, and why are you, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the business side of things, let's talk about that for a minute. So your dad passes away, and what happens when someone becomes a power of attorney?
Okay, well, first off, I'll say that in a will, you need to create a living will if you're alive and you have any interest in not causing your family grief. And in that, you would appoint someone to be your power of attorney, or the executor of your state, someone that will overlook your assets and your debts. And in that will as well, just to let me sideline real quick, you choose who will be the legal guardian of your children, so the state does not decide all these things.
Right, because people don't know that. People don't know you.
So to shorten it down, Dad did not have a will. As organized as this man is, amazingly organized, I won't get into it, could not find a will, could not find a will, could not find a will. And when that happens, if there's no legal will, there's no access to bank accounts, lock boxes, no way to shut off credit cards, no way to stop auto payments coming out of his checking. You can't shut off his Hulu. You can't shut off his cell phone auto payment. You can't do anything. And if it doesn't get handled, the state obviously becomes informed that such and such has passed, and then any legal debt, Medicaid can come back after, all the money that they put into him at Mercy and all this and that. And it left quite a mess. Excuse me, but I was able to, through legal means, which are fairly simple, and I can explain them, was able to get the administration of the estate and open things up and get things closed down, and get the death certificates and all the fun stuff, and get that all, and I'm still dealing with it. It's still not closed. It's been 9 weeks, and he had a very small estate. He did not own real estate or a vehicle, which makes things massively easier, because then that stuff can go to probate and sit, and since he had very little, my brother and sister and I didn't have a lot of decisions to make. It was splitting up of possessions and, a small amount of some jewelry and some collectibles and the things that you would expect, Dad's dresser or his cult peacemaker or something,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah.
So from the estate, what was the thing that you treasure the most?
Of his possessions? Those, okay, when he passed and all this happened, and I talked about the forgiveness, I felt like I had just graduated high school again. Like I felt like I was like burying my dad then. So as I'm going through all this stuff, I'm seeing stuff that, like, I was a snooper when I was a kid. I'm like, I'm gonna find Dad's nudie mags, man. Like, I'm gonna get them. So I knew everything he had, everything. From when I was a little kid, I knew that he had a rifle up above the door that I couldn't get to. I knew he had a bottle of slow gin that he didn't drink for 25 years. You know what I mean? I knew everything he had, his class ring and all this stuff. Well, he kept all of it. He has his reports cards from the late 50s, and as I'm going through this stuff, it's just all the memories peeling back from his early childhood, marrying my mom, my birth, my child photos. So I got to relive that whole experience through that. So, but that is my favorite part of it.
Yeah. Because you kind of you're experiencing life in his shoes almost, like through his lens.
Finding his great-grandparents' pictures from 1880, like on a flash foil that they would do and all that. Just like he kept everything, like I would keep everything.
Yeah.
Of course I got rid of a bunch of stuff, but all those keepsakes. The most important thing to me, I'm not a big gun lover or a gun nut, but I always loved the stories that my uncles and my grandfathers would tell about that. That's my grandpa's shotgun, That's an auto 5 that shoots 5 in a row. You don't even have to cock it, I remember that thing, and then it sat there for 25 years, and then it comes to me, and
now it's yours.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Yeah.
So that gun, because it was an heirloom.
So that's been your favorite part of what was your dad's name?
Rick. Yeah.
Rick. So,
dealing with him and dealing with that I'm reliving. I still have those totes down in the basement. I cleaned them up this weekend. I was finally able to throw away his clothes that he went to the hospital in and starting to do that kind of closure thing.
That's really big.
Yeah. I had them all folded up. It was weird, but like I'd still go into the totes and I'm like, he got a D in gym class, and
So I just want to touch on that for a minute. So like throwing those clothes away, like what did that feel like? Or did you feel nothing?
It was a decision that I was also just able to make at one just random moment. I walked by and I was like, it's time now. It's been 9 weeks and his socks are still sitting on my floor. He's in his Decker Sporting Goods shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to wear that.
I don't. I'm just impressed that you have that ability. I have. When my grandma died in 2012 and we took over the house, I still have like stuff hanging on the fridge that she wrote that isn't worth anything. Businesses that probably aren't even open anymore, and it's been almost a decade, and I'm one of those guys. But do you feel like going through all that stuff, like you said, you felt good about it, in the moment, it was a good experience more than a bad experience going through all the old stuff and all the pictures and everything.
Yes, because it was everything he had collected from when he was good and when we were good and all those things.
And do you feel like maybe having those several years of like that time where, like, do you feel like maybe if you guys were really close and he died, it would have been harder to go through that stuff than it was for you? I'll explain after you answer where I'm going with this.
Maybe it's different in my situation because he still collected mad stuff after we were apart. So he still has massive things that I don't have any connection to. Right. But the things that I have in my possession, I have connection to.
Sure. For me, it was my stepdad was in control of everything. And it's not good. I know you said you've listened to some of the episodes.
All of them.
So you know enough. He's got all her stuff. He's got her remains. He's got just total control and doesn't want to do anything nice for me to help to save his life. But I lucked out, and right after she died, my sister still had access to go over there. I was staying there still, and she got me pretty much. My mom saved pictures. She was really into. We always had a lot of those disposable Kodak cameras in the 90s, and even as far back as when she was a kid. And like my sister brought over like 4 laundry baskets full of those picture envelopes, from Target and Walmart and shit. And I went through all of them because I was the one that had to put together the picture, whatever, displays for her funeral. And it just sucked for me because, like, I couldn't help but think, it was still so fresh for me that it was like, I couldn't help but think about shit like, well, these are all memories and now I don't get to make any more memories. And it was just very easy for me to go to the darkest possible place through all of it. And I guess listening to you talk about how much you enjoyed it kind of makes me feel like I wonder how long it will be, because I have those still. Luckily, I have those still in my possession. And it makes me wonder how long it will be before I'm able to look at those and feel more like that about it, than like, because even thinking about going home and looking at it now, I know I would just fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
I hope to get to a point where it's more of a happy experience looking back on all that. I never really thought of it that way till you kind of told me, you told what you just said. So I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just over here in my own world just because I have Ethan's clothes in my closet and now my clothes smell like his clothes. And I was just thinking, like, right before I came here and I went upstairs to, like, it's been a hard day. It's been a hard couple days. And I usually, like, will slip into his clothes for whatever reason. So I, like, put on this Rip and Dip t-shirt, which is his favorite. And I just think to myself, like, I'll never be able to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Like, his shirt that he went in for surgery, like, is in a plastic bag. Like a Ziploc plastic bag, because I just want to preserve the smell for as long as I can. And it smells like gross, dirty boy,
Yeah.
And it's those tangible things that you hold on to. And, like Ike has his computer right now, which was his heartbeat, that was his lifeblood, and his entire life is on that thing. And it's been really hard for him to part with that. Because we had intend to give that computer to Ethan's best friend, Jack. And, it's just been really hard for Ike to part with that too. And like Ethan's finals and stuff, Claire wants those. And it's just these things that, like, when you touch them, and I'm sure you can, attest to this as far as like your dad's stuff, you feel them. There's a vibration and an energy to that.
It's a time machine.
Yeah. And so, like, right now I can never see myself parting with those things, and so it's like, as much as it's my favorite part, like what you were saying, like to have those things, because they're tangible, basically memories. It's also the worst, It's like the worst thing. What do you think the worst thing is from this experience? Like you said, like reliving this, your past basically through him has been your favorite. So what's been your least favorite?
The least favorite thing probably for me so far, and it's still pretty new, it's only been a couple months. There's a lot of things that I want to complete so that I can close the legal and business and Big Brother side of things, so that I can just sit down and be like, I'm done with this stuff, because it just drags and it reminds me consistently. And then it reminds me of things I was angry about or regret or something, but I'm waiting for papers. I'm waiting for lawyer things. I'm sure everybody does. And every time I talk to somebody about it, they're like, oh yeah, the process. Yeah, that's going to be a while, and you're like, yeah. And I said at the very beginning to my brother and sister, I need you guys to come over and go through all this stuff with me. I know it's weird and it's early and it's been a month now, but I'm going down to my basement. It's all here. And I'm sitting on all of it. And there's 3 of us. And I need closure. I need you to come be like, that meant something to me. I'm taking it.
Yeah.
And it's been semi-successful getting them over. So I'm not quite able to close everything up, close up shop, and just get to the mental game with it yet. But that's been the hardest part.
Yeah. What do you think it will look like after that's done? Like after the book is completely closed, like what does it look like for Brian?
I'll probably try to be pretty matter of fact with myself and kind of go over what I explained earlier, where I'm going to really cherish the first 18 years. I'm going to tolerate the next 10, then I'm going to forget the last 10 or 8 or whatever it was, so. I need to take note in myself so that I never put myself in a situation with my own children. It was part of the reason why I pulled away. I can't be my dad. I will not be my father. I'm not going to do this. I see this.
Yeah.
And I want to take this from that as well. Right. Never to get myself into a situation where I'm begging my son to come see me because I've just pushed it too far.
Sure.
So lessons learned, I guess.
Yeah. I always told my sister this, like, she was really mentally ill and she loved her kids, but she was not a good mom because of her mental illness and just a lot of varying factors. But, there was moments of lucidity where she would just say, I hate who I am. I'm a monster to my kids. And she would hate herself because she just couldn't mother. And I would always tell her, like, and just from our own experience of growing up in a traumatic upbringing, is like kids don't really remember the bad stuff as much as they do the good. And I think what you're saying is a testament to that, because even though it's there, that pain is there, you forgave it all within a matter of moments because the person you saw in front of you, and I went through this with my stepdad who passed away, was a terrible man to me growing up. And in his moments of vulnerability in the last moments of his life, I offered my forgiveness to him because I really did. He taught me how to bait a hook, and he taught me how to fight, and he taught me how to protect myself, and he pinned my first corsage on me and that sort of thing. And those were the things that I remembered, and not the horror of the man that he became because of his mental illness. And those moments I could forgive him and that's really, I think, one of the greatest gifts, whether they're awake to hear it or not.
And I felt so bad. I just am like, I cannot let this man die without
peace.
I mean, me and my brother were both on either side of him, like, dude, it's fine. We're over it. We love you, man. Like, it was like I say, it just washes away. And I feel bad. I'm weighed with regret 60% to 40% grief, and it's a weird ratio.
Interesting.
Because when I think, like, why am I mad today, or what's bothering me today, and I'm like, well, there's all this stuff from this guy that was pretty cool, that could do a lot of stuff, and I couldn't do it, and maybe, just all the what ifs. And
sure.
You said, that our situations aren't similar, and in a lot of ways they're not, but in a lot of ways they are, a lot of the stuff you're saying, I've been there, and I'm still there. And just listening to you kind of tell your stories made me realize a few things, even about my shit. Like, I start to wonder, am I more mourning the idea that, because like I said, I was so sure, like, I could get her back, because the person she'd become from her addiction was a different person than the person that raised me. I had a great mom growing up, great mom. And I think that's why it sucked so bad, that she'd turned into that person that I didn't even, you know what I mean? Like, to go from to go from like having somebody be the person you want to be around more than anybody your whole life to like, I don't want to answer this phone call because this is going to fucking suck, is like a real weird thing. But like, am I mourning more the fact that now that she's gone, I for sure am not going to get that back.
Yeah.
Before there was that like, we can fix her. You know, somehow.
That glimmering hope
This
that she's
fucking
going to appear out of the
sucks.
clouds and be
And
better.
it seems to be getting worse, but we can somehow, someday we're going to,
We still have time.
this outcome didn't seem possible.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that future I saw of like her being cool and us being able to be like you said, on his deathbed, you're like, it's fine. We're cool. But it would have been so much nicer to be like, we're fine. Because, you know what I mean? It went the other way. And granted, you said he was getting older, but still at the same time, you know what I mean? Whether it's time or not, it's unfinished business that went differently than you would have liked. And that's the same thing with like the way you talked about the whole, you know, the government end of it, the process. I have such a strange relationship with that process right now because no one opened my mom's probate because her next of kin was my stepdad, who's, you know, who knows what he's doing. He doesn't know what's going on. And the longer it took for him to open up that probate, the longer I got to keep my family home. That is all I have left. You know, like you talked about like the heirlooms. For me, it's this house I'm living in. It's like a living museum to like my whole life.
Yeah, I remember that.
We're going through all that crap, you know, and we're going through probate, and he's got his lawyer and I got mine. And on the one hand, it's like the longer it goes, it doesn't look good for us. You know, he's got the law on his side. The law doesn't care about who's right and whose emotions are involved. On paper, he's kind of got us beat, it's looking like. So at the same time, all the longer this goes on, the longer I can cling to this house. But there's a weird part of me that thinks about that, like when it's done, I'll know. You know, I know I'm not going to end up on the street. We're going to be okay. We're going to have a place to live one way or the other. And I don't want to lose this house, but when it's done, no matter how it ends, I can really be done with that guy. You know what I mean? And not have him in my life. And I think there's a lot of grieving I haven't been able to do yet.
Yeah, the closure thing is huge. Just, I don't know, loose ends just leave everything hanging. And I'm sure it's going to be extremely raw until, oh my God.
Yeah, because it's hard to like get anywhere when you don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? It's
sit and wait and just be in pain for a while.
yeah,
longer, guys.
and I've told Tiff, I've told my wife too, like, and in a way I'm thankful for having gone so long, but I didn't know what anxiety was until this happened. And now I'm just, I'm on edge all the time. I don't ever feel comfortable. Not really. You know, I have moments with friends where I'm having fun and I'm doing fine and I've been able to get back to comedy, but there's always this kind of dread of like not knowing what's going on.
Well, just knowing you as a friend and knowing you for as long as I have, I do recall in your repertoire or your bullet points of who Justin is being a lover of his mother.
Oh.
I remember that from a long time ago. So I totally understand where that pain's coming from. I mean, I'm getting it. Like your stuff is raw with salt dumped in.
But it's the same kind of thing, you know, you're going through where it's like, it's trying to wrap it up and there's all this stuff that, you know, and I'm sure as you were going through that and having to be the guy that made all these decisions to get things done, you didn't have the time to take for yourself to truly, really process how you were feeling about it. You know, and maybe you've had a little more time now, but in that, you know, someone had to do that shit, you know.
It was literally weeks of going to his, we'll call him his wife's, because she wants nothing. She's like, I don't want to see a thing that reminds me of him. And she loved him, but it hurts her too much.
Painful.
So everything goes out of the house. So it was weeks of every day after work, 4:00, I'm driving over, I'm loading my truck full of totes, I'm driving them home. So there was a lot of just time. And I was able to occupy myself with that in the early days. The handling of the business is actually somewhat strangely therapeutic because you can put yourself towards something. I'd be like, all right, today I'm calling the funeral home.
Yeah.
Today I'm
You
going
were
to,
right.
today I'm calling the lawyer. Today I'm calling the bank. Today I'm calling this other bank. Like, and I was like, I'm doing things, and I'm gonna have all these things done, and they're gonna be done as soon as I'm
I
done
have
with them.
purpose.
And then I got all my things done, and now it's like you wait on everybody else to get done.
Those are the moments where I wish I was more like that. Luckily, my wife was that for me. I just turned into mush.
I knew that it wouldn't happen if I did not.
Right, and that's the thing.
That's
You
where
had
I
a
am,
slightly
too.
different situation where you had to be that guy. I just kind of had to play ball because I just wanted my mom to have a funeral, and knowing he was in charge, and I just knew I had to just walk on eggshells with this guy. Like, as much as hard as that was to even be in the same room as him.
It's like a serrated blade. I mean, it's like you got the grief, and then you've got the contention.
Yeah.
On top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you lose someone and there's bad blood in there, like my dad, my real dad, who's still living, how I do not know. We have a really estranged relationship, and I've only ever asked him in my lifetime twice for something. The first time was when I called to tell him that his daughter had died, my sister, that night, minutes after I'd gotten the phone call. And I just was, I was crying because like she was my dude. You know what I mean? Like we all have our dude. She was my dude. And I just said, I just really need you right now, Dad. I don't know what it is that I need. I just really need you. I need a dad. And his response to me was, I don't know what you want from me, babe. I don't have any money. So in that moment, I knew I was on my own. I'm flying solo here. And, I took care of everything for the funeral. I took care of her. I signed her body over and said goodbye to her and stuff before they cremated her. And that's just super fucked because, like, I'm not her parent, even though I had been parenting her for years. The second time was the day that we were going to pull Ethan from life support. My dad had somehow gotten wind of it, and he lived 20 minutes from where I was staying in a hotel by the hospital. And he had called and had been calling me and calling me and calling me. And finally I just conceded and
Give in an answer.
Yeah. And I answered, and, and there was this sincerity in his voice, and he was just like, it actually was the first time I ever felt like he related to me because like he knew exactly how I felt because he had lost a child too. And he just had this vulnerability in his voice that just was a bullet to my bone, And he just said, do you want me to come and sit with you at the hotel before you go up to the hospital? And I said, yeah, I really need that. I really need that. And he never came. And I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
And so like the funeral, which I had thought I'm going to take a back seat on this one. I don't have the strength to do this like with Ethan. And of course I had to like put all of my creative spin on it because I love that kid. And, I just wanted to do justice to him. And I just said, my only wish from people would say, what do you need? What can I do for you? And I said, if my dad shows up here, keep him away from me. Like, just because like I was just in a tender spot and like I just didn't want to be vulnerable to him. And so when you are put into that position, you with he who shall remain nameless, those moments of contention at funeral, those hard moments, it's so difficult because it's such a hurting time. And then to throw that salt into open wounds like that is just, it's tough. That's really tough.
Did you have any, I feel like it's not something I've thought about a lot, but that's the weird thing about doing this show is people will, you or whoever our guest is will say something and it sparks this shit in my head that like somehow 8-9 months into this, I still haven't thought about, or like that blur of those couple weeks, the funeral and everything, where like I feel like I remember a lot of the goings on, but bits and pieces I'm like, oh yeah, that. Did you have anybody like you felt kind of took, like you said, you were in a vulnerable spot and didn't want to.
Like my wingman? Did I have a wingman?
No, did you feel like anybody tried to take advantage of that in that situation? I had a few people that I hadn't talked to in some time that hadn't made the effort to make things right with me, that used that moment at my mom's visitation. That I don't know that I've ever had a more vulnerable 2 hours in my entire life. I couldn't be pulled off of that casket. That's the visitation ended up being just everyone coming to the casket and trying to get whatever they could out of me. And because he didn't care, he spent the whole time out in the other room. But I had a few people that, I wasn't necessarily cool with, use that moment to hug me and tell me, like, oh, it's, so, forget everything we've been through. I'm here for you now. And I couldn't do anything but accept it. And since then, it's gone right back to,
Of course.
People,
yes, I would, to answer your question, yes, I had that happen to me both at my sister's funeral and at Ethan's funeral. But what I've learned is that, obviously we know that funerals and the ceremonies of funerals are for the living. And I think in so many different aspects. And what I have learned is that people use that as a stepping stone, an olive branch, whatever, to make peace for themselves. But you hit the nail on the head. The chances are that we'll go right back to the way that it was before, where they're not calling or reaching out or whatever. But that I just had to let them have that peace, because I'm too vulnerable. And
exactly,
honestly, right now, bro, you're small potatoes. Like I don't know if you noticed, but I'm frying some pretty big fish over here.
And if and in a situation where that does, you know what I mean, fix it. And like, let's say you're estranged with someone, this horrible thing happens, and something good comes out of it, where you you know what I mean? Then fine. Yes.
I would say yes.
That's a silver lining.
But often that's not the case.
But it turns real gross real fast when you put that other spin on it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, yes. How about you? Did you have experiences like that?
Yes. I'm going to put my positive spin on this again. I was able to actually mend my relationship with my brother. We kind of realized, what I'm talking about, that regret and all that. My brother and I haven't spoken in a long time. We were not hating each other anymore, but we were not talking anymore. He used to work for me. It went bad. You can't work with family a lot of times.
Yeah.
And, so now we're able to actually make a phone call and the other guy answers and goes, hey, what's up?
That's good.
So, I mean, that's a good step. Yeah. There was no funeral for my father because he'd basically been shut away from people for 10 years. All his friends were gone, moved away. He wasn't old, Justin. He was 67, but he was older. All his brothers and sisters are gone or living up in the Canadian border. Okay. It's just, you're in the middle of COVID. What do I do? You know what I mean? I didn't know what was going to pay for what. I was paying the cremation out of pocket at that time. I didn't know what a funeral cost, and so I didn't really run into people. I had online interactions on Facebook and text, and I got some cards in the mail that they obviously would get through the obituary and stuff like that. But no, I didn't run into anybody really trying to take advantage of anything as far as that went.
That's good.
Yeah, and I would not deflate your situation. It's just that I wasn't in the whole like standing at the casket thing, and so.
Well, and I think a lot of people do desire to mend things, and I always say clean up their side of the street. Like they have the best intentions in their head, but I'll just say most people are cowards, and they use opportunities like birth of a child, death of a loved one, weddings, whatever, to use that as a stepping stone. And that's just really how I see it, is just it's a cowardly human behavior that just is like how it is. And it's not how I choose to live my life, but I understand, like, by and large, a lot of people do. And it's kind of gross. It's kind of,
and at the same time, if they follow through, I'm kind of cool with it. You know what I
love
mean?
that.
Yeah, I'm like, if they follow
want
through,
that
I'm
for you.
totally cool
Do you
with
think
it.
that maybe something like that happens to somebody, even if it's an adversary, we'll say? Do you think that triggers some sort of empathy in the mind that makes me be like, I need to reach out?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And
For
I'm not
sure.
saying it's not a cowardly thing, but it's the low hanging fruit of the way to approach somebody to reconcile.
It's one of the things that can make your pride kind of take a back seat for a second.
Sure, but it is also the opportune time. Like, yo, like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Like,
And like I said, if
See
that
that you're vulnerable.
dinner Friday?
said, I'm totally cool with it if they follow through. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah. I've had a couple estranged friendships. One of my longest friendship, my best friend, we broke up. We were together for 8 years and we broke up, and it was crushing. And it was kind of a toxic relationship, and I would say the demise fell on me. I had been really untruthful about some shady shit I was doing, and anyways, but she had reached out to me, sent me a card after my sister had passed away with no return address, which is sneaky in her fashion, but I appreciated it. And then after Ethan, I didn't hear anything, and that kind of crushed me. But I have to believe, like, because we were so close and she was close with him, she's probably grieving in her own way. So I just don't. Grief is just weird like that.
is.
It's just really, really tricky like that. And I think that would hurt a lot of people. It's kind of like, well, I invited you to the wedding and they didn't even show up, kind of thing. Like, well, my kid died and you didn't even send me a card, but like, it's just, you see things so differently and you see people so differently after you've walked through this, weediness. But I thought that I would be really hurt by that. And it does, I do think about it often. Like, I wonder if she thinks about him, or, in turn thinks about me, or, you know what I mean? It's weird. It's really weird. But yeah. So I would say, if you're out there listening to this and you have bad blood with somebody, you better get that shit taken care of quick, because somebody's about to drop dead and you don't want to be that guy.
don't wait for someone to die to do it, because
Yeah.
if you think about it, like, it's no different. You know what I mean? Like, why be prideful when someone's like, oh, someone, you know what I mean? Like, what's,
Right.
I don't know. That's like as people, I feel like that's our one thing we protect so much. Is
What's
like
that?
our pride and like our like
it is
stubbornness
by and
and-
large the biggest sin that we have as people, and
it's silly.
it's real silly. Yeah, pride is crippling. Yeah, Brian, would you come back on the show sometime? Would you come back and process where you're at?
Was this a
in
positive
few months?
experience for you?
I was telling
How many
Tiff,
stars would you give us?
I was give you a Yelp rating. I was telling Tiff, I said, I listened to the first few episodes when you guys got going with it, and I liked it. And then then Dad passed, and you kind of stopped doing the things you were doing. Like, you forget that you were right in the middle of a
stuff.
season of some show or something.
Yeah,
and you're like,
right.
oh man, I was watching that until like 2 months ago. And then a couple days ago, I flipped on episode 13, and then I was at work and I listened to them all backwards.
Okay.
So I got to listen to you guys get worse.
Yeah, sure.
Podcast as it went
Seems like a real
backwards.
decline.
And I thought, as I was listening to it, I was like, this is pretty good. It's pretty good. So I got more ramped up and more excited to come on, and I really had a good time. I did not think that I would have tears rolling down both cheeks.
Yeah.
I thought
Well, I
maybe
haven't had a
one.
good teary episode in a few, so I
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing it out
It
of me,
didn't get
Brian.
too soppy though. My pants aren't wet. Nothing.
Yeah,
It's okay. Real men cry, Brian, and we're some of the realest I know about. So.
Yeah, I would really love to have you back and just see what the process looks like. Full closed chapter.
Yeah, after the scab comes off,
Oof.
maybe.
Yeah. Wow. Good illustration. Totally. Well, I enjoyed this a lot.
Did you?
I did. This is up there on some of my favorite dialogue so far. Just happy to know both of you. I mean, this is what you say back to me.
Oh, I like you.
I like you.
You're cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I had a great time. Thanks so much.
You're a good egg,
Thanks
Tiff.
Thanks, man.
You're a good egg.
Thanks. So yeah, thanks again to Brian Truex, guest of the hour, sharing his journey with us about his dad, and weighing in heavy over on my left is crybaby Justin. So
Was that a? Did you just call me fat and a pussy at the same time?
yeah,
It was the 1-2 combo
sir.
punch.
Those are your words, sir.
Uh-huh.
So, hey, out there, listeners, thanks again so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. Hope we're doing something for you. Until next time.
Hang in there, guys.